All right, let's try it again. And I'm going to go in and invite some people. Thank you guys for being so patient. I can see some of you watching live. Hello there from our community, Eryka T Johnson community. So just let me know where you're watching live from as you come in. Would love to greet you. Right now I can see you watching live, but I can't see your name. So let's try this. All right. We are going to try it and see what happens. Hello, Miss Edith. Glad to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. We're trying to get our community up and running. Looks like I've been experiencing some issues with Facebook. There's been a few other people that's been experiencing issues as well, but looks like now we have individuals finally coming in. Hey, Ms. Yogi, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Pastor Q, good to see you. Good evening. How are you? We're just trying to get connected here. There were some issues that were going on with Facebook, but looks like we're starting to get some traction. So if you guys would not mind, wow, still getting some errors. If you wouldn't mind just sharing that we are on live and we're going to try to get some more folks in tonight to just kind of chill out with us as we talk about identity. I think it's going to be really good. So if you don't mind just sharing, just letting folks know, to come and join us, sharing with your network that we are on live. We will get started here shortly. But just go ahead and share it out if you don't mind. Share and invite. See if I can invite any more people. Thank you for the hearts. We are talking about identity tonight. Yes, keys to finding your identity. We're continuing our series, ladies, on be fearless, right? We're talking about being fearless. And if you spent the last few Fridays with us, you know that we started off by talking about, and actually I pulled out those lessons too, just to do a really high level recap. Hey Tawana, good to see you. Do a very high level recap. We've been talking about being fearless, and I've just been giving you different ways to be fearless, right? And so we started out talking about 3 keys to healing the pain of sexual violence. You guys, many of you know my story, kind of the journey that I've gone through, and then, I've had the opportunity and an ability to just really do a deep healing process as part of the Fearless Visionaries Project. And so I get to tell that story and share that story with the world in the Fearless Visionary book. So I gave you 3 keys to healing the pain of sexual violence. And so we talked about admitting your truth, you healing in a community rather than by yourself in silo, and then you committing to a daily routine of just rebuilding yourself from the inside out, not on the outside, but on the inside out, okay? And so if you were around for the second live stream that we talked about, this one was really good. We got a lot of feedback on this one, but we talked about identifying the source of a negative self-image. And honestly, when we start talking about that, what we're talking about is the imposter syndrome. We're talking about, that inner chatter that we have and we experience. We're talking about the inner pride. And so that one was one that we definitely got a lot of feedback on, where I gave you, if you missed it, you missed a lot. And so I want you to be able to go back in the Fearless Visionaries community and pull this video up. If you don't watch any of the other videos, you need to watch this video, because I gave you 10 signs that you may be suffering from a negative self-image. And I also talked to you about what are the three things where your belief system comes from, right? And this could also be where that negative belief system came from. It's also the place where a positive belief system can come from. So we talked about your exposures, your environment, as well as your experiences. And so we've been dealing with some pretty phenomenal topics, that's really helping women just kind of find their voice, right? And be fearless, which is kind of which is what my expectation is. And then the third live stream we talked about 3 steps to finding your voice after sexual trauma. And that is so key. That is so important, because the thing about trauma, sexual trauma, often the perpetrator is trying to control you and trying to enforce and overpower you. And so a lot of times it causes you to shut down. It causes you not to fight. It causes you not to speak out. But I talked about, finding your voice after the fact, and how you are a voice, right? That your life is a sound. Your life is a vibration. That, your life, a life that is lived, creates a sound in the earth. And it's a sound that causes people to recognize who you are, because they're looking at what you're bringing to the table every single day. And your actions are creating a sound and a vibration that draws people to you. And so it's important for you to discover and rediscover and find your voice after you've gone through the type of trauma that I've gone through, okay? And so tonight is not going to be any different. We're going to continue to have our discussions. Thank you so much for the hearts. We're going to continue to have our discussions around being fearless. Hey, Kiara, thank you for coming. Make sure you guys share and invite others to come in and to join us. And so let's talk a little bit about identity, right? We're talking about the keys to finding your identity, right? So identity is powerful within itself, right? I say that it's foundational to you excelling in life, excelling in relationships, excelling in your career, excelling in business. Identity is one of those foundational things. It's one of those things that anchor you, right? And it causes, it is at the very base of whatever it is that you do. Identity is important. Identity is what shows up before anything else shows up, because it's foundational to who you are. So if there's any time or any moment that you're not quite clear about who you are, often what will happen is you'll sabotage whatever the opportunity is. You'll sabotage the relationship. You'll sabotage XYZ. You fill in the blank, right? You will sabotage it when you don't understand or you don't have a clue about who you are, right? So identity is one of those things that can make or break you. You want to have good success? Make sure you know who you are. You want to go far in life? Make sure you know who you are. Identity is key. And so, hey, Andrea, we're talking about identity. Yeah, we're talking about identity tonight, right? So it touches every facet of your life. And it often signifies for many who you are and how you show up in the world, okay? So it's going to signify for other people who you are, and also signify that for you as well, but also how you show up in the world. I found a definition, and I don't want to go real deep into the definition, because when I read it, it was like my mind went somewhere, and I'm going to teach on that just a little bit as I kind of go through some of the keys. But I want to at least just lay the foundation and give you, what's the definition that I found around identity. And this is the one that I picked because it really resonated with me, okay? Identity, and I hope you guys came prepared with your pen and pads. If you got the little video where I was just reminding you to join me tonight, I told you to come prepared with your pen and your pad, because I want you to also, this is going to be kind of engaging today. There's some things that I want you to do as we're just taking our journey, okay? And so identity is defined as the sameness and all that constitute the objective reality of a thing, right? It's the sameness that constitute the objective reality of a thing. In other words, it means oneness. I want you to write that down. Just write down that word, oneness. Identity means oneness. Hey, Sheila, good to see you, sissy. Hey, Yvette, thank you for joining. I want you ladies to definitely share and invite others to come. Tonight we are talking about keys to finding your identity, and so I want you to definitely get in on that conversation. Okay? So I want you to write down oneness. And these are some interesting characteristics when it comes to identity. Identity, so there's some internal things and then there's one external thing, but I really want us to focus on the internal stuff this evening, right? So identity, right? It is who you are. That's internal. Goodbye. That's internal. It's also how you perceive yourself. So it answers the question of who you are. The second one is how you perceive yourself. That's internal. And then the third is how you are viewed by the world. And that one is external. And so what we want to do is spend our time talking about the internal stuff. Because if we can, from an internal standpoint, can you close the door, Caleb? From the internal standpoint, if you can get that done, right, and you can be very clear and crystal clear about your identity, then the external becomes easy, right? Because often what we find, and we talked about this when we talked about our negative self-behavior, sometimes we can see ourselves as one way and others see us as a totally different way, right? We may see ourselves in a negative light, but what other people see is something that's positive, right? So we're not going to really focus much on, what other people or who other people say you are. We're going to focus on who do you say you are. Let's talk about it from the internal perspective. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a few keys. Yeah. There you go. I'm just going to give you a few keys. I got my visitor in front of me. Can you close the door, Caleb? He can't help himself, y'all. He can't help himself. When he knows that there's a camera that's rolling, he's trying to get in front of the camera. I already know. Hey, Tracy, good to see you, sis. Hey, Danielle, good to see you. He's trying to get on that camera. I already know what he's doing. All right, so let's talk about, I'm just going to give you some keys. As I was just getting them, I was just writing them down. So there's keys to finding your identity, right? And so let's just flow tonight, right? Let's just kind of take our time and flow. Make sure you have your pen and your pad because I want you to get involved and let this be interactive, okay? So the first thing is we act and make decisions in accordance with our perceived identity. So we're going to act and we're going to make decisions based on how we perceive ourselves to be or who we perceive ourselves to be, right? So, for instance, what I thought about is how, and I see this often working with, with women, and I often work with women on, okay, how to advocate for yourself and how to really go for the next promotion, go for the next job opportunity, right? And I see this often when I'm working with women that, there may be an opportunity that they really want, right? They'll see the job description and they'll read the job description and all they're reading the job description for is to see if in their current state, if 100% of who they are currently aligns with their job fit, right? So they don't even identify, maybe there's some skills or some experiences that you've had in the past that, although they said they wanted this specific thing in this specific form, is there a way that you can sell them or pitch them on the actual experience that was very similar to this, but maybe it didn't have the exact same name? So they're looking to be 100% match rather than just, okay, I can match 60%. We're going to still pitch it, and I'll be able to flip it such that, at the end of the day, they can still see who I am and that I'm more than qualified to do the job, right? So we act and we make decisions according to how we perceive ourselves. So we won't go after the new opportunity if we're not a 100% match. Okay? So that one for me was definitely, a big one. Because when we fail to identify ourselves as something, we're often going to sit back and we're going to wait. And I remember doing this video a while ago because I love talking about confidence. I did this video that talked about leaping versus waiting. How often we need to learn how to leap instead of sit back and waiting. Because almost what I believe is when we're sitting in a posture of just waiting, and we're not being constructive, we're not doing anything, but we're sitting here worrying, we're nagging, we're talking ourselves down, we may be trying to, in one instance, talk ourselves up to go in and do something, and then on the other side, we're talking ourselves down like, no, we can't do it. That's often an indication that you're suffering with something in your identity. There's some type of crisis that may be going on that you're experiencing that's really keeping you from moving forward. That's why I say identity is foundational to everything. You will never raise your hand and say, hey, pick me, if you don't have the belief that you are more and you're well able to do something. Can I say that again? You will never, ever raise your hand and say, hey, pick me, if you don't feel that you are well able to do something. That's just the reality of it. Hey, Dr. Eve, thank you for joining us, sis. Yeah, that's the reality of it. So identity, like this thing is so strong and so deep, right? If you're not anchored in an identity, oh my goodness, what happens is you're just sitting on the dock, never ever wanting to jump in because you're too afraid. You don't know, what is it at the end of the day that you can be 100% certain about when it comes to yourself that you would then instead choose not to move at all. Yes, identity is foundational. Thank you for the hearts. This was another one that really hit me, and it hit home so much that when we are suffering with an identity crisis, oh my goodness, like I'm about to tell on myself, y'all. When we're suffering with an identity crisis, oftentimes we will flex on our beliefs to accommodate another person rather than being firm on what we believe to say, nope, I'm not compromising. So I really call it the fight and the fight against self-love where you would not compromise, and self-hatred where you're flexing so that you can then appease another person. Did you guys get that? I even see identity where if you're suffering with an identity crisis, there will be war against self-love and self-hate. This is internal. This is going on with you. Where if you're in a posture of you're operating under self-hate, then you're going to make sure that everybody else around you is taken care of. Even if even if there's something that you need, your preference is going to be for everybody else to be taken care of. The preference is going to be for you to flex who you are and being who you are and your beliefs to accommodate and to appease or please that person. Whereas if it's self-love, you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to be so in tune, and there's going to be such a oneness. Remember, you wrote down oneness, which is the definition of identity. There's going to be such a oneness. All of you will be aligned where you will not flex on your beliefs to accommodate validate nobody. You won't do it. You won't do it. You're going to be aligned. There's going to be oneness. It's going to be important to you. It's going to be important to you to show people, listen, I love who I am. And because I love who I am, that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how much I love me such that you know how to love me. Okay, I'm not sure exactly where all that came from, but you guys get it. So identity is foundational because you will act and you will make decisions in accordance to how you perceive yourself, your perceived identity. Are you ladies still with me? Uh-oh. Somebody say I'm stepping on their toes. Uh-oh. Dr. Eve said, pick up your bed and walk. Come on now. Sheila saying internal is source, external is perception. Come on here. Woo! That was me at one time. I compromised for 30 years. Listen, Dr. Eve, I get it, sis. I get it. I get it. Yes. Dr. Eve said, this is what I told the job when I leave. Come on here. Come on. So that's one of the keys. One of the keys when it comes to finding your identity is knowing that you're going to act in accordance with what you believe about yourself. So let me ask this question. What do you believe about yourself? I want you to put that in the chat. Listen, over here in Eryka T. Johnson community, Miss Edith says, clarify who you are and whose you are. This is what she says about herself. So I want you ladies to take some time and put in, what you believe about yourself. So this is what she says she believes about herself. She says, I am rich and an elegant lady. I am a millionaire chick and savvy and classy. Hashtag oneness with God. What is it that you say about yourself? And I really want you guys to think about it because I want you to write it right now before we go further, because what I believe is as we continue on this journey tonight, that even what you believe about yourself may even change. Did you guys hear me? I want you to write down right now what you believe about yourself. Put it in the chat. Give me one thing. It doesn't matter. Put it in the chat, because there's a strong possibility tonight that as we continue with this lesson where we're talking about the keys to finding your identity, that may change. That there may be another unveiling. There may be another layer that comes off where you begin to see yourself even deeper. Yes. Dr. E says, watch me win. I come from royalty. Yes. Kiara, she says, I am confident, compassionate, a powerhouse. Yes, you are. Come on. Andrea says, come on, ladies, keep typing it in. I am loved and valued. Yes, you are. That's powerful. We got to know what we believe about ourselves. We got to know. At the core, we have to know. So other ladies, if you guys don't mind typing it in, we're going to go on to the next key, and I'll come back and I'll read yours. Now, this one is good. So we're still talking about finding your identity, right? So identity should be connected to who you are at the core. Okay? So identity is not a superficial type of deal. It's not about you on the outside. That doesn't even matter. That's shallow. That's not even deep. But identity identifies who you are at the core. I mean, when you go down at the core of you, what is it that you say about yourself? Right? So it's not a job. Let me help you. Let me help you for a moment. Identity is not a job. Identity is not a title. Identity is not even your name. Because, oh gosh. Identity is not even your name. Let me keep going because this. But identity is your design. It's a design, right? Identity is your design. Identity, because it connects with the core, is your place of oneness. That's still, again, your place of alignment. I just can't shake that, right? It's your design. It is a design. Identity is a design. Write that down. Identity is a design. And you ladies are still telling me about who you are. I am opulence. I am a bold queen. Dr. E says, I am chosen to lead and to reform. Yes. Rochelle says, I am an overcomer. Yes. Sheila is saying, I'm a queen with quality, a motivator with stigma, fearless, fearless image of God. I am a masterpiece that can't and will not be duplicated. I embrace my identity of confidence. Yes. Pastor Q says, I was created for a unique purpose and assignment. Yes. Identity, ladies, is a design. So, and what I mean by that is when you were created, okay, what about you was unique? When you were created, ask yourself that question. When you were created, what about you was unique? Can I tell you what about you was unique? Everything. Everything about you was unique. That's why I say it's a design. And it's not one, so it's a design and it's not a die cast, right? It's not something somebody can just go and duplicate over again. It's not a mold, right? It's not a mold where somebody say, okay, I'm gonna mold you, and then I'm gonna mold you, and like you get street people with the exact same mold. No, identity is a design. So it's something that was something about you when you were created. This design was coded specifically for you, and so everything about you is unique. Everything about you is unique. It's not an action. We're still talking about identity. Identity is not an action, but it's a state of being. It's how your presence creates impact around you, right? It's the very core of who you are. So when you show up, it's the impact that your presence makes. That's your design. That's your identity. That's what makes you unique. That sets you apart. That doesn't make you like the other woman that's sitting right next to you. It doesn't make you like your cousin. It doesn't make you like your sister. It doesn't make you like the pastor's wife. It makes you who you are. Okay? This one here just gets me. Identity is magnetic, ladies. And it is designed to draw other people to you. It's magnetic and it's designed to draw other people to you because we were created for community. We were created for collaboration. We were created for creativity. So your identity should draw people to you because you should be magnetic. Now, if you are somebody who says, okay, I'm not magnetic, when people see me, instead of them being drawn to me, they run away from me. Okay, I don't know if that's you. But if that is you, then that lets me know that you really need to spend some time just really emptying out just whatever that baggage is that's affecting your thinking, it's affecting how you show up, it's affecting, like you're coming with all of this negative energy, your personality and your attitude is stank, nobody wants to talk to you, then you need to empty out because your design is to magnetize. You're a bad girl. You were designed to magnetize and to draw people to you. Yes. Woo. Okay, let me read some of these comments here. Dr. E says, I am self-determined. I'm born to empower. Andrea says, God didn't create duplicates. No. Everything about me is unique. I can't be duplicated. I'm an original, Pastor Q. It's the essence of who you are. That's it, Andrea. It's the essence. It's the being. Like if you do nothing else and just be, that's your identity. That's who you are. Dr. E says, I'm a messenger of hope. Magnetic, yes. Pastor Q says, my presence creates impact when I show up. You better come on here. I am magnetic and contagious. That's it. Right? So we said that it's not an action, it's about your being. It's about the very core of who you are. Andrea said it very best. She said it's your essence. It's the essence of who you are. And the thing about it is, to honestly, sometimes to get in alignment with with your true identity, to get in alignment with your true identity, is going to require you to sit in silence. Sometimes you're going to have to get into stillness, and you're going to have to get into silence in order to gain clarity. And that's simply because what we will find sometimes is like our experience will try to overlay over who we truly are. Sometimes our trauma will try to overlay on who we truly are. Sometimes the things that we've gone through, and even the people around us, sometimes our circle will try to overlay over us and overlay over your identity. And so it often requires you to get into a space where it's just you. And there's quiet, and there's calm, and there's stillness, and you go through the process of connecting with who you are at the core, hearing to understand what is it about you that makes you you. What about you makes you you? What about you sets you so apart that it's undeniable that you can be anybody else? Right? So we have to get to a space where we learn how to quiet the chatter as well as the noise of what you do, so that you can instead ask, who are you? Or who am I? So identity is not what you do. Don't tell me when I say, hey, how you doing? Don't tell me, say, who are you? Don't tell me what you do. That's an extension of identity. When I want to know your identity, I want to know at the very core, when everything else is stripped from you, at the very core, who are you? If you don't have the money, if you're not the wealth strategist, if the money is not there, who are you at the core? That's what identity is. So it's not about what you do, but it's about who you are. So I have this friend, and really quickly, I'm going to tell her husband's story. So I have this friend whose husband actually worked for the railroad, okay? And he was a high up manager in the railroad. And something happened one day where he ended up losing his job, okay? And what ends up happening is, because his identity was tied to what he did, and his identity was tied to this job, and his identity was tied to this amount of money that he was making, and his identity was tied to, the title of manager, and he had all of these people that he was looking out for. When he lost that job, guess what happened? He felt at that moment that his whole identity was gone. And so he ended up having a mental breakdown, because he had attached everything about himself to this job. And he had been rooted himself in this job, such that when he lost the job, he lost himself, because he had so connected it to what he did rather than who he was. So when I say you're going to have to get quiet time to sit and to listen and to turn the noise down from what you do, because often what we do is to make other people look at us and say, wow, oh my God, you're so amazing. Oh, you're so awesome. Oh, you have this. Oh, you have that. When that shouldn't be what you're magnetizing people with. Oftentimes it is, because we deal with a lot of people that are shallow and they're all about the fame. They're all about the glitz and the glamour. But honestly, at the end of the day, if all of that is stripped away from you, what do you have left? Hey, Claudia, good to see you. What do you have left? How will you define who you are? You will never be defined in things. You'll never be defined in money. That's not something that will define you. But you need to look a little bit deeper, okay? Ladies, keep walking with me. And so what I want you to do really quickly is I want you to pull out a piece of paper. Have you guys ever heard of a mind map? Yes, Andrea. Most men define themselves by what they do. Yeah, that's true. The external will try to invade you, yes, to dictate who you are. So you got to be careful of that. Yeah. So I want you ladies to pull out a piece of paper. When you have that, just say ready. Just type in ready. Pull out a piece of paper and a pen. I want us to be interactive tonight. Actually, you know what? If I could do, like, for each one of these live streams that we can do, if I can do like a worksheet and like send it out to you guys somehow beforehand, that would be amazing. Because I love to see transformation. That's one thing about me. I don't want to ever go into a place or ever connect with somebody without them having some form of transformation. All right, Miss Rochelle she has her paper and pen. She says she's ready. Who else has theirs? All right, Claudia. She says she's ready. Just grab a pen and a piece of paper, and we're gonna and I'm just gonna get you kicked off because I just want to give you probably a minute to do this exercise. We're not gonna spend long on it, but I'm just showing you an exercise that you can work on that in turn, you can spend a bit more time just kind of going through it, okay? But I just want to give you a few tools tonight because we're talking about finding your identity. So I want to give you tools to kind of help you do that. All right, Kiara and Andrea are ready. And so on this piece of paper, just take a plain sheet of paper, and in the middle of the paper, I want you to write me, M-E. In the middle of the paper, just write me. Now, and draw a circle around it. Can you guys see that? Just write me with a circle around it. And I want you to draw arms, like you would do like a sunshine. Outside of me. Because all I want you to do as a part of this for the next minute, I want you to write down who you are. Just write down things about you. It doesn't have to be in any order as it comes to you. Hey, Tracy, as it comes to you, I just want you to write down who are you? Not what you do, but who are you? I am blank, right? I love blank. I am blank. Just all around me. Maybe you're a daughter. Maybe you're a mother. Maybe you're an inspiration to others. Maybe you're someone who believes in telling the truth. Maybe you're integral. Think about these things. If at the end of the day, these are the things that are going to remain about you. No matter where you show up, these things are going to be foundational, almost like we can call them almost like core values. They're going to be foundational to who you are as a person. They're going to be foundational to who Dr. Eve is as a person, or who Rochelle is as a person, or who Kiara is as a person, or who Aquila is as a person, or who Andrea is as a person, or who Claudia is as a person, who Tracy is as a person. These things are going to be foundational. Who Edith is as a person, who Sheila is as a person. It's going to be foundational to who you are. Have you ladies written down? I'm going to give you another 10 seconds. And then I just want you to just write down, right in the comments, just one of the things that you say who you are, right? So in the middle, you have me, and then the arms that's extending out of you basically describe who you are. And so the message there is identity is core. It's at the core of who you are. And it extends out from it extends out from you. That's why I say identity is supposed to be something that draws other people to you, because these are the arms that are coming out of the core of who you are that helps to draw and to magnetize other people, to draw and to magnetize others. So you guys just keep writing that, keep that with you, and even after we get off of the live stream, you want to spend some time just, who are you? Right? Just being real about who you are. What is your reality? Okay, let's move on, ladies. Thank you so much for doing that. I do have another exercise that we'll do here in a second. Let's read a couple of these comments. Dr. E says, I am courageous. Yes. And that's powerful. Being a person of courage, so it doesn't matter what the situation or the circumstance is that comes up. You know, at the core, you're courageous. So you're going to still be able to go through it. Andrew says, I am God's masterpiece. Absolutely. Kiara says, I'm resilient. Right? Who wouldn't mind wearing the cloak of resiliency? That no matter the challenge, you're still going to bounce back. That you have longevity. Claudia says you're kind. That's right, Claudia. These are all things that help us to identify who we are at the core. Yolanda Rochelle says, I am an encourager. These are all powerful things. So you ladies, just, like I said, continue to work on that even after we get off the live stream, and just just write and write and write till, just all of this clarity just begins to happen for you. And what you're going to find is the more and more that you sit quiet and you just think about all of these powerful things about yourself, you're going to see that it's going to start boosting your confidence. You're going to start walking a little bit differently. You're going to start seeing things and people and situations and circumstances a bit differently, simply because you're helping to identify who you are. Okay, so this is another thing about identity. This one here was pretty powerful for me. Those things that you identify with, you feel a deep sense of responsibility for. Whatever it is that you identify with, you feel a deep responsibility for. I identify with being an agent of change. I identify with being somebody who initiates and causes change, right? So because that's something that I identify with, that means that every time I show up in a place, the expectation is the things around me are going to change. They cannot remain the same. Because my presence is there, the natural result of me showing up is there has to be change, right? That's a belief that I have about myself. That's how I can identify myself. I'm always initiating change. People get around me and all of a sudden, they get inspired and they want to change. Where they were thinking one way, after a 5-minute conversation, all of a sudden, they change their way of thinking. So when it comes to identity, the things that you identify with are often the things that you feel responsible for. So I feel responsible for making sure that wherever I go, it doesn't remain the same. I have a sense of responsibility for it, right? That I expect nothing less in that environment, in that situation to change because I've shown up. So think about that as well, ladies. So what about you that you identify with, that you feel like this is something that you are now responsible for? Like you've taken on accountability and responsibility for this thing because it's so in alignment with who you are, and you know it without a shadow of a doubt. You know it. Maybe you're somebody who always encourages other people. You know that wherever you show up, even if you don't feel well that day, even if you are sick, the natural thing that comes out of your mouth is encouragement for other people. That's just who you are at the core. It's natural. You can't change it. You can't stop it. Hey, Yolanda, you can't put it on a back burner. You can't cover it up. You can't just ignore it. It's just who you are. That's identity. So I heard this incredible story today where there was this manager who was talking about a visit that he and his wife had taken to the eastern part of Africa. So they went to Kenya, they went to Tanzania, they were doing like the safari rides, that sort of thing. And they went to this one place where, you know, they had their guide. There was an opportunity for them to go into one of the local villages. And they were, you know, they were Americans, and they were very much enthused about going and really seeing beyond just the beautiful safari, what the people in that area, how did they live? You know, what were the type of clothes that they wore? Hey, Yolanda, how did they survive, right? They were very intrigued about understanding this other culture. And so he told this story, and he said the people, the village that they went to see the Maasai people, okay? And in this village, they were greeted when they got dropped off of the Jeep with the guide. They were greeted by the son of the chief. Okay, and so just remember, we're talking about how when you identify with something, that this something is going to cause you to have a deep sense of responsibility for it. Okay, and so they were greeted by the son of a chief, right? And so he welcomed them in, and he welcomed them into his home. And what they said was that the home was made of cow dung, right? And it was made of sticks, and it was made of dirt. And that, you know, there was no electricity, there was no light. The only light they saw was from a fire pit that was somewhere in the room. And that they were literally in the home that was like a one-room home. And on one side of the room is where this young man and his family, his wife and children, slept. And on the other side was where the animals, like the small cattle that they had brought in at night, because they would be attacked when they would be sleeping by people coming to steal, that they would bring the small little calves in at night, and it'd be in his home. And so he said that he and his wife were having a discussion with this young guy, and he began to tell them that he was actually an educated young man, that he had gone to university in the UK, but he had come back home because he understood a few things. He understood that he was the son of a chief. He understood that he was the oldest of the children, and he had a deep responsibility for the 100 people that lived in that village. He understood that the livelihood, the well-being, the safety of these 100 people in this village truly depended on him. So he had taken responsibility. He stepped into the core of who he was, and he took responsibility for these people. He said, I am the son of the chief. I am the eldest. These are my people. So he even took responsibility for the people. And so I said, and I shared that story to say, when it comes to identity, whatever it is that you identify with, You have a deep sense of responsibility for it. Okay? A deep sense of responsibility. The next thing, so number 4, the fourth key is identity is perceived through the process of self-awareness. So this is almost kind of tagging along to how we talked about, getting in quietness, getting in stillness, and being able to kind of walk through and process identity and the things that are an alignment with your core and that oneness. That also identity is perceived through the process of your self-awareness. So it's your reality. Right? Isn't it incredible when we can be self-aware? So there's this thing that I've learned to do when it's come to actually doing business. And it's called a SWOT analysis. Has anybody heard of a SWOT analysis before? SWOT. So I want you ladies, again, this is another exercise. Take your piece of paper and I want you to divide it into 4 quadrants, right? 4 quadrants. And you're going to have SWOT. And each one of those stand for something. Have yes, yes, yes. This is another part of you just discovering yourself, which is that's the key thing when it comes to identity, is really taking the time, getting comfortable, sitting still, being self-aware to really just discover who you are at the end of the day. Like, you don't have to be in a hurry to do it. This is the one time that you can be selfish with your time, to sit down and understand who is it that you are. Hey, Felicia, thank you for tuning in. Okay? So the S stands for strengths. So if somebody can type that for me. The S stands for strengths. And a lot of these are going to be self-explanatory, but there's one of the areas that I really want to hit home on. The W stands for weaknesses. The O stands for opportunities. What are the things that you can improve? What are the things that may be okay, but you feel like they can be a bit better? And then the T is the threats. And I really want to talk a bit about the threats. So you guys have the papers. In this quadrant, I want you to write the strengths that you have. Underneath it, write, 1 or 2 weaknesses. Then I want you to write 1 or 2 opportunities, things that may be okay but could be improved. Somehow they can be better. And then under the T, let's talk about the threats. So the threats, and the whole scheme of this is a tool for you to just identify with yourself a bit more. The threats are often the things that come as a surprise, that we may have the opportunity, or we had the opportunity to change them, but because we failed to confront them, they showed up in our lives. Did you hear me? So the threats are the things that, number 1, you are aware of these things, and you chose to not confront these things. You chose to bury these things, but those things are the things that can come back to haunt you, or they can come back to sabotage your opportunity, or they can come back to sabotage and you fill in the blank. So for instance, just even the reason why all of us ladies got together in the Fearless Visionaries community, right? It was because of some type of trauma that we had gone through in our lives that maybe it wasn't completely healed. Or maybe, we did one layer of healing, but we didn't do the deep healing. And so those things were deeply rooted in us, that it could have had the possibility to bleed on who we really are at the end of the day. But because we didn't confront it, it stayed there. And so it impacts a whole lot of things. Like, it keeps you from reaching the height of success that you're trying to go to. That you may reach here and feel like you're at a plateau and don't understand, okay, why am I not growing? Why are things not getting better? But it's not because you're not putting in the effort. It's because that weight is holding you down. It's holding you back. And so it's good to write down your threats, because you're going to have to be honest about your threats. Like, out of the entire SWOT, when you can really deal with your threats, then you have the ability to then deal with your opportunities and to also strengthen your strengths. Okay? So your threats. So like for me, my threats came from, 30 a past, trauma that had happened over 30 years ago. One part of it, at least 30 years ago, that, I felt like, okay, yep, I prayed about it, got through it, like, okay, I'm good. But honestly, at the end of the day, there was still like the root of it still hadn't been brought up, right? The root of self-hatred still hadn't been pulled up. So that's why we take time to focus in on the threats, because the thing about it is nobody may know about your threat. So a lot of times people can see your strengths and they can see your weaknesses, and they may even tell you about the things that you can improve on. But the part about the SWOT analysis that is definitely an internal thing is your threats, because nobody understands your threats quite like you understand them. Because you know exactly what you have gone through. You know what you're hiding. You know the secrets that you're not telling. You know the things that you swept under the rug and you chose not to say anything about it. You know, maybe no one else knows. It may be showing up in the way that you make decisions. It may be showing up in the way that you interact with other people. But ultimately, you are the steward of those threats, because you know. You're the steward of the secrets. And it's those very secrets that have the potential to keep you from reaching where you're trying to go. Are you ladies still with me? So take some time to do your SWOT. And then I'm just going to cover one last one. And then if there's any questions, we can hit those questions. And then we're going to go, because I'm going to try to keep you under an hour. So I'm looking at the time now. So let me just go back and just high level really quickly. We're talking about the keys to finding your identity. So we said we act and we make decisions in accordance with our perceived identity. Who is it that we say that we are? And we basically move and make our movements and our actions from who we perceive that we are. Number two, we identify. Identity should be connected to who you are at the core. It's fundamental. We said that it's a part of the foundation of who you are. It's the core of who you are. It's the part that keeps you grounded and rooted and keeps you steady. It's your design. It's the design that makes you unique, that nobody else has quite the same type of design. We also said that those things that you identify with, you feel a deep sense of responsibility for. And so a lot of times you can reverse engineer that to say, okay, what are the things that I feel really responsible for? You can write those down, and then you can flip it to say, oh, that's a part of my identity. You can come up with what the core is based on what you feel a strong sense of responsibility for. Okay? Number 4 says identity is perceived through the process of self-awareness. And so I want you again to work on your SWOT analysis of yourself, making sure that you spend time in all 4 quadrants, but be real when it comes to your threats. That's the one part that is internal to who you are. Everything else people can see externally, but your threats are something that is internal to you. And then number 5 is your identity is tied to the purposes that you were created for. And what's so amazing about it is you have more than one purpose within you. And it shows up at different times in your life. And so how it happens, there was something incredible in Bible study this week where one of our leaders was teaching about the power of vision and purpose, and how the thing about purpose is how we've been created for purpose, and how basically how God goes into time and he sets that purpose into time at that right moment, right? And then he steps out of time, and then he goes and he creates you, and then you start along the journey, so that the purposes that you were supposed to do in year 2019 don't show up in 2019. Your 2019 purpose will not show up in year 2000 because it's not time for it yet. So honestly, what that's indicating for us is that over time, like we evolve and our purposes evolve, right? And they're all ultimately leading to this end goal, to where we're actually at the end of the day trying to get to. And so we gotta just, we gotta know that our identity is really connected to the purposes that we were created for. If we can understand purpose, we can understand identity. It's almost like they go just like this. So that's another way you can find your identity. I've given you several keys at this point and several tools that you can use to find your identity. So if you can find your purpose, you can find your identity. And your purpose, like, what is your purpose in 2019? What is the thing that you're supposed to be focusing on for 2019, right? So your purpose is why you were created. I told you it evolves over time. Like you will have more than one purpose in life, right? And it may just grow on, one purpose will grow on to the next one. Like it's going through the normal process of development and evolution as you get more knowledge. Okay, now this can switch up and we can heighten this purpose a little bit more. Okay, you get a little bit more wisdom, you get a little bit more experience. We're going to heighten that purpose a little bit more. That impact is going to spread out a little bit more. That significance is going to get a little bit bigger. So think about it in those terms. Or think about it from the terms of who are the people, who are the ones that you need to show up for every day in a powerful way, and in what way you need to show up for them. That too can help drive towards identity. And then this is one key that I want to leave you ladies with. Yeah, Andrea says our purpose keeps unfolding. That's right. There's depth to it. Absolutely. One thing that I want you to leave here today with is you are not your trauma. If you're in the Fearless Visionary community, maybe you've gone through trauma or you know someone who's gone through trauma. And so I feel like it's extremely important for me to share that you are not the trauma that you've been through. Remember how I talked about how your experiences will sometimes try to dictate your identity? Well, your trauma and what you went through and that secret that you're holding on to, it doesn't define you. Don't allow it to define you because that's not who you are. Do not allow your trauma to define you. Do not allow your bad experiences in life to define who you are. Those things are put on after the fact. The thing about identity is there's an unveiling, there's an uprooting of all of these other things that have been put on after the fact till you get to the very core. When you think about an apple, you cut an apple in half, and the very core of the apple is the seed. You're trying to get to the seed. And the seed is going to tell you at the end of the day who you are. Because think about it, inside every seed, you think about inside of an apple seed, there is an apple, right? But the only way to find and to see the apple is it has to be planted in the right soil. So you want to take that time to make sure that you're identifying the core of you and not the circumstances and the situations and the experiences that you've gone through. That doesn't define you. That gives you wisdom, but it doesn't define who you are. It's not your identity. We need to get to the core of who we are, and that's where we will find our identity. So identity is powerful. It is foundational to you excelling in life and relationships, in your career, as well as in your business. And it touches every facet of your life. Ladies, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining us. And as we continue our Be Fearless series, we'll continue next Friday. We're going to come with another topic. If there's something in particular that you would like to talk about, then just in the comments, just put, hey, I would love to talk about, and just tell me what that is. And so we want to make sure that we're helping you to excel. We want to make sure that we're helping you to be fearless. And so thank you for taking this journey with us. If there's any questions, put the questions in the comments, and I'll also go back and answer those as well. And so good night, ladies. Thank you for joining us on a Friday. where we talked about the keys to finding your identity. I will talk with you next time. See you next Friday, ladies. Bye bye.